What did we just witness? I was planning on making this video after I released my top 10 of the year, but seeing how bad the Duffer Brothers have screwed the pooch, I had no choice but to talk about it now.
Look what you did, you little jerk.
I had such high hopes for where the season 4 finale left off, as that was the best the show had been since season 1, but they managed to turn it into one of the worst final seasons of a show that I've seen since Game of Thrones.
No, it's not true. That's impossible!
Now, that's not to say this is anywhere near as bad as that monstrosity, because I don't think anything will ever be that bad. And I don't want you to think I'm some TV connoisseur, but as a day one fan of the show, it definitely underwhelmed me in almost every aspect. I'm going to jump straight into full season spoilers and what I think didn't work with this season, so don't say you weren't warned. The reason people have managed to stay so invested in a show that takes 3 years to put out a season was the captivating character dynamics and a sense of constant urgency that kept everyone and the story in constant motion, but a lot of that has been forsaken for a plot that goes in circles.
We're going in circles.
With the end of season 4 setting up a doomsday scenario, I was expecting this season to come out guns blazing, but we instead spend the first episode pulling a Rise of Skywalker and going back on everything the finale set up. The Upside Down ripped apart Hawkins at the end of season 4, killing who knows how many people, as well as giving way to toxic air pollution and countless demo creatures. But don't worry, everyone in town was completely oblivious and unaffected by all of this thanks to the military putting everyone in lockdown, turning the middle of town into a fortified base, and covering the tracks with thin sheets of metal, so everyone's back to their regularly scheduled programs.
You serious?
Our group has been going on recon missions to try to track down Vecna's whereabouts in the Upside Down by having Hopper sneak through multiple levels of armed security and onto military supply trucks heading in there towards their newly established base. These missions prove to be unsuccessful until Will begins to have visions from the perspective of the Demogorgons that are heading straight towards the Wheeler's home to abduct Holly, which sets much of the season's plot in motion. You might be wondering who Holly even is, and that's due to the fact that she's never had any screen time really, but now has become the main character.
Who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that?
She is transported into the mind prison of Vecna, where he presents himself as a kind-hearted imaginary friend protecting them from evil monsters, but she gets the sense that not everything is as it seems. After receiving an anonymous tip, Holly ventures off into the woods, the one place Henry told her not to go, and finds Max, who has been stuck there since being put in a coma at the end of season 4. While Max and Holly look to escape through the only memory Vecna fears, our main group spends these 6 episodes rehashing multiple story beats that get us back to where season 4 left off for most of these characters.
Well, that was pointless.
For excessive spoilery and my sanity's sake, here's a quick speedrun of what everyone is up to. Hopper is still holding Elle back because he can't stand to lose another daughter. Joyce has to learn to let go of her son and remember Jonathan is also her kid. Lucas and Mike don't have much to do except worry about their girlfriends. Nancy and Jonathan are still dealing with tension in their relationship from the two of them not being fully open with each other. Robin and Steve are still doing their usual thing for most of the season. Murray provides the occasional but unnecessary comic relief. The only one who seems to get anything of substance or an interesting character development is Dustin. There's some decent character moments scattered throughout for everyone, but they don't do anything to advance the plot forward and make their characters more stagnant if anything. The only interesting revelations that push the story forward come when Hopper and Elle free her lost sister Callie. Will discovers that he has powers and the Upside Down being a wormhole between dimensions. But even those moments are littered with problems.
I haven't got a problem. I've got fucking problems. Plural.
Callie is brought back to drive a fork between Elle and Hopper and to give us an exposition dump behind why the military is bad. After finally finding his inner strength, Will is able to easily harness his powers, but we spend the next 3 episodes watching him go back to being unsure of himself and being scared that Vecna is going to use his fear against him. You might be asking what that fear is. Well, it's not exactly explained, but it's essentially that Vecna is going to use the fact that he's weak against him by pointing out that he's gay.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
This sets up the single worst scene in the show's history. Outside the fact that he basically got over this in the first 4 episodes and the world is literally on the brink of destruction, we have to stop and have Will explain how he's different from everyone, not just to his close friends and family, but literally every single person there. Even if it makes no sense for them being there, like with Robin's girlfriend, Hopper, Steve, Nancy, and Murray.
Why are you here?
It all feels overly self-important, narcissistic, and cringe from Will, and makes everyone else look dumb. I'm pretty sure that his friends and family would know if he was gay or not, so it all just feels really unnecessary. Especially in the context of it being the end of the world and the reason behind the sit-down being Vecna using his own fear against him. They should have watched their own show and remembered how they did that coming out scene for Robin, because that was far better executed than whatever this was.
That didn't work.
The upside down being a wormhole doesn't totally add up, and they don't even attempt to explain the wall and how that functions. The finale is a mixed bag, with this season's storyline wrapping up about as stupidly convenient as possible. While much of our group decides it's a good idea to climb to the top of a radio tower, wait for the abyss to begin its descent into the upside down, and climb through the cracks into a dimension that they've never scouted out and have zero preparation for, Elle, Max, and Kali set up a trap that will show the rest of the kids that Henry is the true monster.
I like your plan, except it sucks.
This surprise attack works, as the kids are shown the truth and escape with Max, as Elle and Kali team up and nearly take down the caught off guard Vecna. With Vecna distracted trying to break Elle's body projection concentration and recapturing the children, the main group head towards what they think is Vecna's lair, but turns out to be the living embodiment of the Mind Flayer in the form of a mountain-sized spider kaiju. This seemingly insurmountable force is easily combated, however, in less time than Will's coming out scene, thanks to Elle miraculously showing up and basically going God mode after being fueled by the death of Kali, which we will get to. As she rips through the creature like she's tearing a piece of paper and confronts Vecna once and for all, the rest of the group supports her from the outside by attacking the creature with all they've got, which surmounts to one person with a machine gun that has already been shown to have little effect on these creatures, as well as a few flares and gasoline.
Is that all you got?
With everyone contributing their all, and Will, who's seemingly unaffected by these attacks, going into the mind of Vecna to help Elle take him down by pulling a Logan and driving a spike through his chest, the Mind Flayer and all of its evil has been finally eradicated.
That was easy.
The other half of the episode is dedicated to a series epilogue that I will talk about here later in the video, and was a lot easier to sit through. It felt like the Duffers pulled a David Benioff and D.B. Weiss by focusing their attention on bigger things, which, judging by some of their answers for the valid questions posed by many, such as where are all the demo creatures in the end battle, why was Will unaffected from the death of the hive mind when he's connected to it, and how Vecna was completely blindsided by the group attacking him on his own turf, that sentiment couldn't be any more true.
While Danny kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet and Euron's forces.
The biggest issue that Stranger Things has always faced and doesn't do anything about is the ridiculous amount of plot armor given to every character. For a supposed sci-fi horror show, the cast seems to get bigger and bigger every season when it should in fact be doing the exact opposite. The Duffers always seem to introduce 2 new side characters each season and always keep the shittier of the 2 around. While deaths like Bob, Billy, and Eddie pack an emotional gut punch to each of their respective seasons, it comes off as awfully convenient that everyone else seems to get by just fine. We know all of the main characters have a better chance of winning the Powerball twice than dying, because we've seen it play out over and over again with Will, Eleven, Hopper, Nancy, and Max. The show could have proved me wrong right off the bat with the Wheeler home invasion, where Ted and Karen should have died trying to defend their daughter from the Demogorgon, which would have upped the stakes and showed that no one is safe this season, but both are able to miraculously survive. We see a couple of Demogorgons take out an entire base of supposedly highly trained military soldiers with ease and can tank all of their firepower. But a clueless dad with a golf club and a broken bottle from a drunk wine mom apparently gives you a better chance of survival.
That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit.
Jonathan hasn't served a purpose in the show since season 2, and I thought the moment with Nancy was going to be a really well done, heartfelt send-off that could have given the show this much needed emotional gut punch I've been talking about, but instead everything is fine as soon as they finish their unproposal, with the upside down goop deciding to harden just in time to save them.
Oh, well, isn't that convenient?
Imagine how profound it would have made if Nancy would have been the reason for Jonathan's death. but we are left with a pointless breakup instead. So you mean to tell me that Nancy led on Jonathan and Steve for 5 whole seasons and neither gets a satisfying resolution because Nancy wants to figure herself out on her own? So we literally just wasted our time.
What a stupid waste of time.
All of the characters in the hospital are saved just in time by a gravely wounded Mrs. Wheeler who puts an oxygen tank in a laundry machine that waits until the Demogorgons get close to blow up like it's an episode of Tom and Jerry. Timing aside, there's zero chance Mrs. Wheeler would be able to move, let alone sneak into a laundromat crawling with demos. Why not at least take out Robin's girlfriend? She serves zero purpose, no one has any attachment to her, and it would have given some level of impact to the hospital ambush. Then we have Max and Holly doing the running up that hill scene, except they decide to sit down and have a 10-minute conversation before going back to reality. This completely undercuts the tension of the scene because we know Vecna can show up at any time in this place as we've seen previously in this very season, but clearly our characters don't think so because they have enough time to sit and have a coffee break. I get that she couldn't do anything about it, but Max leaving Holly on her own is pretty selfish, especially after Holly is the one to get them out of that hellscape.
You're sick, you know that? You're really sick.
I guess Murray can just drive a regular-ass delivery truck riddled with holes and claw marks filled with 10+ people through multiple barricades of an armed fortress while being berated with bullets, and no one will die or even have a scratch on them.
It was super easy, barely an inconvenience.
Oh, and Nancy will be able to easily take out armed guards that are already locked in on her because they have stormtrooper aim, and she is John Wick with any type of gun. Then they leave the back wide open when someone has a clear shot on them, just so Eleven can aura farm with her handsome Squidward face she makes in every scene. Steve should have been toast on the cell tower, but is miraculously saved by Jonathan. I'm fine with this one because I couldn't do with the only consistently good character getting killed off, but did we really need a cut to black right when he loses his grip?
Tune in next week for the exciting conclusion.
How do Steve and Dustin think running under a kaiju the size of a mountain to stab it a couple of times would result in anything other than being smushed into Flat Stanley?
What the hell is this? Some kind of voodoo doll?
That is Flat Stanley.
Also, why would the Mind Flare manifest itself into a fleshy creature that can easily be weakened by a few bullets and Molotov cocktails? When there are finally some deaths in the finale, they all feel completely lackluster and predictable. Collie's death is done terribly. Linnea Berthelsen, sorry for butchering your name, does such a bad job acting alongside Millie Bobby Brown, who to her credit gives her best moments of acting here, but is undercut by the lack of chemistry and the fact that we don't really care about Collie all that much.
We don't care.
Let me tell you
We don't care.
Jerry.
Murray then making a joke right after, only to turn around and try to act all sincere for Elle, doesn't make it any better. They kill off Vecna as if it was as easy as taking out the trash. We all knew that he was going to end up being defeated, but having him and Eleven force push each other until Will decides to stop crying to help while everyone else shoots and ignites the Mind Flare kaiju felt like a bad final boss of a video game you played on easy mode. He honestly should have died even earlier too, but Collie decided she had to stop and say hello brother before stabbing him to give him just enough time to escape because the plot says so. And then we have Elle's supposed death, which was somewhat expected, but should have been an extremely emotional climax of the show. Instead, I felt nothing because we had to get the camera to individually pan across every single character's face, making it feel extremely played out by the time she's gone.
Why don't you just fucking die already?
They almost committed to a really interesting way to go about it with Hopper and Elle, but went back on it immediately. I never felt like any of our characters were in danger, which makes me not give a rat's ass because I know everyone of slight importance is predictably safe. When Dustin tells Hopper at the end that they took a hell of a beating, but they're okay, I couldn't help but burst out in laughter. These conveniences that are there to keep our characters alive are also extremely present when it comes to people coming up with inexplicable knowledge to solve a problem because the plot needs them to. Erica, Robin, and Dustin seem to always be the ones that just magically pop out the answer to the most niche and random shit. First of all, Erica is like, what, 11? How does she have this vast knowledge on pretty much every subject? It's Hermione Granger levels of knowledge.
That is the second time you have spoken out of turn, Miss Granger. Are you incapable of restraining yourself, or do you take pride in being an insufferable know-it-all?
Then we have Robin, who makes the most obvious connections because the said plot point is ripped off of an 80s pop culture movie or show that no one seems to know about except for her. You mean to tell me Joyce has never heard of a flux capacitor or Back to the Future in general 2 years after it came out?
That is such bullshit.
At least Dustin is set up as being the smartest person at school from the beginning, so it makes sense for him to have a vast knowledge on a lot of random stuff. But for everyone else, it comes out of nowhere and they only know so in order to move the plot along. Steve even has some crazy revelation and comes up with the entire final plan to stop Vecna, despite the Duffers wanting you to think he's clueless. The other big issue the show has run into is the casting of these actors when they were children. With the show so heavily focused on a group of young people, it's crucial that you make the right choice and see the potential in these kids to grow in talent over time, like with the Harry Potter franchise. But unfortunately, there's been a few that have really regressed. And that's before mentioning that you need to film the show while they're still kids instead of letting them get to be about 30 years old.
How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
Gaten Matarazzo, Caleb McLaughlin, and Sadie Sink have only improved with time, with the moments between Steve and Dustin, as well as Lucas and Max reuniting, being some of the best of the season because of their acting. But the issue isn't with the side characters, it's our big three of the party. Noah Schnapp, Millie Bobby Brown, and Finn Wolfhard may want to find a new career path because acting is not for them.
You might want to consider a different line of work.
I'm tired of watching Noah Schnapp do nothing but cry and overdo it in every single scene. Will getting his powers and when he is speaking to Max through Vecna should have been so cool, but it just comes off as corny because it doesn't feel like he gives the character any sense of newfound confidence, to the point where I can't buy Will even being able to go to the bathroom without having his hand held, let alone being strong enough to gain superpowers and use them without any repercussions we see them give Eleven. I know he's been ripped apart on the internet already, so I won't try to pile onto him too much, but his coming out monologue is up there with Tommy Wiseau in The Room as one of the worst acted things I have ever had the displeasure of cringing through. No wonder it took 12 hours to film that one scene. Just look at everyone's reaction. You can tell they're not buying it, so why should we?
Not buying it.
It's like he went to the Nick Cage school of overacting minus the charisma and charm. He's really good in the first 2 seasons, but I don't know what happened along the way because I can hardly sit through any scene he's in, which is a problem because he's the main fucking character. Millie Bobby Brown used to be a lot better when her character could barely speak and just acted confused, but her lack of acting ability has been on display the last 2 seasons. She has almost no range and either just smolders into the camera to try to look badass or holds her hand out and screams, but it just comes off as hilarious now. Finn Wolfhard turned a character that used to feel so wholesome and empathetic into a self-centered dickhead. It's similar to Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone 2, where clearly his success got to his head and he had a bit of an ego. But Culkin oozed with undeniable magnetism and played into what he knew people already liked about Kevin. But whenever Wolfhard tries to tap back into the down-to-earth aspect of the character, it just comes off as disingenuous and forced. It's like he thinks he's bigger than the show and can phone in a stereotypical performance that comes off as a 23-year-old doing a half-assed caricature of himself.
No, you're not cool.
Millie and Finn have absolutely no chemistry together. It doesn't help that they are given 0 screen time, so we have literally no reason to care about their relationship anymore, despite being the backbone the show used to revolve around. I don't blame the Duffers or the casting directors for this, because it's really just wishful thinking hiring a bunch of children, but it really does ruin a lot of key moments between our biggest characters. The show also runs into a few other minor continuity issues throughout the season, like why is the technology still working in the lab in the Upside Down? How can they breathe without any hazmat suits or at least something covering their faces as we saw in previous seasons when entering the Upside Down? Why does Eleven bring Max along to track Vecna in his mind like it's take your friend to work day? I get it's to reunite her with Holly since she left her earlier on, but you can't retroactively try to solve an issue like that. It just comes off as an idiotic decision that jeopardizes her life for no reason.
Come on, man, what the fuck is you doing, cuz?
Would the military really just drop everything and not search the clock tower that Erica and Mr. Clark are in just because they think that the group is at the radio station? So Max literally gets every bone in her body snapped, but can magically walk and see after that. While these don't completely ruin the show for me, it definitely took me out for a second and had me thinking that does not add up whatsoever. I know, I just spent a good chunk of time tearing down this dumbass direction the show has taken this season, but that's not to say everything was bad, because I did enjoy a few moments here and there.
Not so bad, was it?
Everything they did with Dustin was amazing. As the guy who has always had a happy-go-lucky attitude and a smile on his face, I thought it was very in line to see him take the death of someone so close to him really hard and have this drastic shift in his personality. He's justifiably enraged at people not recognizing who Eddie truly was, and that his friend has seemingly moved on so quickly from it.
He's out of line, but he's right.
This creates a rift between not just Dustin and the party, but mostly strains his connection with Steve. He's pushing Steve away by being an asshole because he doesn't want to be close to anyone in fear that he might lose them. This all culminates in two great moments where Steve calls him out on his bullshit and the two get into a bit of a scrap and make up, and the other being their moment of reconciliation where they truly come together and have a call back to season 3 line, "If you die, I die," that hits much harder than before.
It's enough to make a grown man cry, but not this man.
Steve continues to be the best character in the show. I like seeing him take things more head on as his own man instead of falling back on Dustin, Nancy, and Robin for help. His growth over the seasons molded him into a guy who knew exactly who he was and what he wanted from life. And I'm glad we saw him now fully be confident in himself after floating around lost and seeking purpose for the last 3 seasons. Even though the love triangle was randomly dropped, I did enjoy seeing the back and forth between him and Jonathan, where they come to an understanding that despite not being friends, they grow to respect each other and appreciate what the other person offers, which made Jonathan saving Steve hit a lot harder than any of the deaths this season. I got the sense that he'd always remain in Hawkins no matter what, so getting to see him become the JV baseball coach was a perfect landing spot for his babysitter mentor role he became accustomed to.
I liked it.
Robin running the radio station fits her character's personality perfectly, considering she can rant and ramble over all the bangers about her conspiracies. Although I hated the execution of most things regarding Will, her empowering speech to him was one of the best scenes and made the revelation that he has his powers stand as the only true penultimate fist-pumping moment of this season. Like I mentioned, Lucas and Max reuniting was so satisfying to watch and was one of the best acted moments. Both of them have been through so much together, so it was really good to see them finally get a small win. Despite being delegated to a background character now, Joyce still remains one of my favorites. Watching her finally trust her son and let him go from under her wing was some much needed growth on her part. There's a moment where trusting him backfires, but she realizes that it's the risk of the situation and not because she gave Will freedom to help. After everything her family has been through, I'm glad she was the one to give the finishing blows to Vecna with her axe like she did to her house in season 1.
You fucked with the wrong family.
Her and Hopper at Enzo's where he proposes to her was the perfect send-off for the two characters, most deserving of a happy ending. She also has a really sweet and nurturing moment where she gives purpose to Derek for the first time in his life. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot about him. I know it gets annoying about how much the cast has continued to expand, but Derek was a great addition. I was in the middle of editing this video and I realized that I completely forgot to mention Jamie Bauer's fantastic performance as Vecna/Henry. He acts circles around whoever's in the scene with him, as he is equal parts intimidating as Vecna and calm and collected as Henry, making for a deeply layered performance and character. While the story was sloppy and contrived, they did a nice job of tying up everything in the series as a whole in the epilogue. As I already mentioned, it ties up Joyce and Hopper, Steve, and Robin's stories perfectly, and same goes for the kids. We finally get to see all of them graduate from high school, even if they did so a decade ago in real life, with Dustin getting to give a fuck the system valedictorian speech in honor of Eddie, despite being a hypocrite and bending the knee to the system by going to college.
Ooh, what a hypocrite!
There was a nice little last hangout between the not-so-established group of Jonathan, Nancy, Steve, and Robin. At least it's implied that while they will always be there for each other, they also realize they're going to inevitably begin to drift apart. Then we get one last campaign of Dungeons and Dragons between the OG group and Max, where everyone gets to share one final teary-eyed farewell, as Mike gives a glimmer of hope that Elle still may be out there. They put their books away and watch as Holly and her friends take over the basement to carry on the tradition into the next generation. A great storybook ending with sharp dialogue that calls back to the beginning and felt like it was actually planned out, unlike the season as a whole. I was being a bit facetious calling this the new Game of Thrones, but I certainly was let down by season 5 of Stranger Things.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
The writing was all over the place. The acting amongst our big three has regressed. The effects are worse than Phase 4 and 5 of the MCU, on top of the already lingering issues of plot armor and out-of-the-blue encyclopedia knowledge to fix any situation they wrote themselves into a corner with. This season had the potential to be the best, and it ended up being the worst. It may not be a total legacy killer, but this will end up being like the Avatar franchise, where everyone acknowledges, yeah, I saw that thing, but I didn't take much away in the end. Stranger Things Season 5 gets a 4.5 out of 10. My quick ranking of all the seasons would go Season 1, Season 4, Season 2, Season 3, and Season 5. Leave your thoughts in the comments below about how you'd go about ranking the 5 seasons of Stranger Things. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please make sure to like the video and subscribe, and stay tuned for my top 10 of the year coming very soon.